as we were saying, ACP edition, open edition, 2 different modules, and with the ability to encompass basically any business process across the board. So I hope that everyone can now see us and being able to hear us as well as seeing our presentation. Things happen. So we're here fundamentally to enable corporate IT to implement app factory concepts, as we said, product industrializing the application development side, and at the same time to enable business users to build this fit-for-purpose solutions using the low-code tooling and the no-code tooling. In terms of what we do is that we enable you to connect all your enterprise systems, providing you one single point of access with one UX. And that's our goal, to be able to encompass on-premise, cloud-based products, your SAP stack, your SaaS stack, but provide your end users a single point where they can actually do their processes regardless of what kind of system they're based on. And that's basically bringing together applications that are built with the ACP edition, applications that are built with the open edition, and then bring them together in one single launchpad, one dashboard that provides the ability to seamless flow from system to system, or even incorporate into one single application multiple systems.
Exactly, while extracting the strength from both platforms. Because, like you said before, when you're running on SAP, you have other possibilities, for instance.
Exactly, we can do it at the same time. We can help developers be more productive, providing one developer experience across the board, regardless of you are on the SAP edition, regardless if you are on the open edition, regardless which system you're developing the application to. You can do it with low code, no code, and pro code. But importance aspect is that you can do it faster, you can maintain your applications cheaper, and in a much easier way.
I used to work as a consultant before, and it was always difficult to meet requirements on cost, on time. The first time I really experienced that I could deliver quality on time and on cost was when I started using Neptune. The IT department didn't believe when I was telling them how cheap and how fast I could build applications. And I even had time when I was working with the customers to actually take those details and make it nice. So that was my first experience with Neptune, and we just made that a lot better the last year. So it's not just the marketing saying you can really develop fast. You don't even have to prototype anymore. You just code your application directly in the Neptune App Designer.
Of course, you can do it with mock-up data, and then basically you are able to get your prototypes very close to a productive environment. So we've told you who we are, we told you what we do. Now it's time for us to show you how. So how to increase developer productivity? We do it by focusing on 3 things. Helping developers to focus on the right tools for the right job at the right time. And that is made by fundamentally providing tools that are role-based, but at the same time, tools that enable the developer to focus on each step of the application lifecycle. We make it also easier for onboarding by providing e-learning content, providing extensive documentation on every single aspect of the platform through our community, and also be able to provide within the cockpit quick actions. The quick actions provided, for example, for the developer on the low code to be able to capture immediately within the IDE samples and examples of how to use each one of the components, UI components, and ability to extract that sample and use it directly on their code. So this makes it very easy. And we also have numerous other quick actions tools that enable within the cockpit, meaning the actual tool that developers, the designers, and the DevOps will be using, that enables them to reach what they need in a much easier and straightforward ways compared to basically anything else. And how do we do that? So we said that we encompass, we accelerate development, but who's our target? Basically, our target is any kind of developer with any kind of skill set. How do we cater for the application lifecycle? perspectives. Thomas, tell me what do you know about perspectives from other IDEs?
Well, I mean, there's certainly several different IDEs that, let's say, Eclipse, where you can start up, and if you want to design the application itself, then that's something entirely differently from actually sort of connecting the buttons with logic and all of those things. So then you're a developer, or you're sort of a UX designer or UI designer. The same thing applies, of course, to anything we do in IT, and we can support the same thing here. So if you want to change the design, the theme, stuff like that, then you can use the designer perspective. But if you're a developer, maybe you just want to develop the apps and make service scripts, stuff like that, you can choose that perspective. So in that way, you will always have just your relevant tool sets right at your disposal.
And even within each perspective, you'll still be able to search for all the services that is available.
Yeah.
So if you have your dashboard and your cockpit will serve you what we think you need for the certain kind of role and perspective, but you will still be able to search all the other artifacts that we have in the platform.
Exactly.
But actually, how do we actually encompass the perspective? So out of the box, you have 3 perspectives that come with the platform. And the 3 perspectives are the design phase, you have the development phase, and then you have the DevOps phase. You can also have a perspective that encompasses all services, so it makes it easier for you to find everything. Speaking of finding.
Even in that perspective where you have everything shown on the cockpit, you will still have your most used artifacts at the very top in the widget, and you will still have widgets in the services itself giving you access to everything, even though you have enabled all the services in this kind of expert view.
Exactly. And let's look at how does this look on the actual product. So on the product, this is the new developer experience. This is the Neptune cockpit. This is where developers are going to log in to develop their applications. That's where they're going to access all of these tools. How do you access the perspectives is that I'm now in the perspective of all services. I can go to the perspective of the designer. So I have here my tools to create sticky banners, login pages, access media library, access layouts, tile layouts. So everything that icon fonts, etc. Everything that caters for design.
Yeah, and I just want to underline that this is what the developers and the designers will see, not the end users.
But at the same time, we want to align as much as possible the concept of the role-based access that we are making available to the end users on the Launchpad to what the actual developers are able to access. And the same thing for the perspective of a developer. Now you have multiple other tools, including some widgets. And what is a widget, Morten?
It's a collection of those services and artifacts that we think you need in the different kind of areas. So the first one is the large suite artifacts, that whenever you access a service and access an artifact inside of that service, it will show up here. So if you access a tile, it will show up on the top, and then it will show on the top of the list, but also down in those tiles, you will be able to access those quick actions on the tile itself.
But also at the same time, it gives you direct access. So you don't, I want to, this is, let's say, a dynamic list that shows me what I've been working on.
Yeah.
And show me my last 20 things, the artifacts that I've been working on. So for example, this becomes my, in a way, my workbench, what I have on top of my table.
When you're in a project or when you're working on a certain kind of area, you will access tiles and tile groups and launchpads and different kinds of services. And instead of searching all those services and clicking and finding those artifacts again, you can just have every artifact in different kinds of services in the same perspective.
Exactly, because usually you won't work on a lot of them, so you'll probably find them there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of these widgets, and we have another widget, for example, here for the store. The store is a collection of templates, building blocks, application building blocks that allows developers to accelerate their development. You can have your own, a lot. You can have your own application building blocks. You can have your own templates. You can just download the ones from Neptune, and then you can see the ones that are publicly available by Neptune as new downloads for you, or the top ones. And you can even say, okay, I'm not interested to know what other people are downloading. I'm interested to know what is new. So
these kind of widgets is then added throughout the cockpit, and we will add more. We're planning to add, for instance, like a system overview where you can see the system status. Is there any new updates to your system? We're having a widget about the UI5 versions. Which versions do you have installed, and which is there any updates to the UI5 versions? And those will all be added. And we will also listen to you and maybe create new widgets based on your feedback. And we even have planned to add an option where you can create your own widgets, but we don't have a framework for that ready yet.
Yes, absolutely. But what's important here for highlighting is that this is how you access perspectives. So if we go back to our presentation, the perspectives enable basically also different types of users, different types of developers in this case, to access the tools according to their skill set. So we have basically 3 levels for skill sets: foundation level, advanced level, and expert level. On the foundation level, what we see is that we will have, for example, citizen developers that know very little about developing or nothing about developing, and they just can come here and they can have no code tooling, so they can produce their own applications.
So when they come into the cockpit, they have all these tiles. For an expert, that's maybe a little bit too much because they know exactly what they want to do. But if you're a citizen developer or a noob in this kind of world, it's nice to have a nice description of each service, so you can get a kind of an overview of what's going on in the system and in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Also you have foundation, and then foundation, then we go for advanced. And who are the advanced? That can be a front-end, back-end developer. So someone that is not a super software, is not a software engineer, but is someone that is been catering for front-end. And for example, for a back-end developer can be, for example, an ABAP developer. Front-end developer can be a lightweight front-end developer that can then leverage on the no-code tooling and the low-code tooling. Also, we have then the software engineer, that being the outermost knowledgeable and techie person, but the less knowledgeable about business processes.
Do I need a hoodie for being able to be in that category?
Maybe that's a cliche, yes, but that's the.
We have a couple of hoodies. Yeah,
we have a couple of software engineers that are wearing a hoodie, so that's just fine. But fundamentally, when you start on the platform, you can start by going into the no-code tooling. And we see that typically that will be the business users, that will be even any kind of other developer that just wants to speed up crude operations, for example, on a connector, on a data point, someone that wants to build applications and migrate from an Excel over to a centralized data point and produce a BI app on it. It becomes very easy for anyone that knows how to handle basically Excel that can actually build applications. And then these applications are responsive. They will look exactly the same thing as what a backend front-end developer can do or software engineer can do. So it's one look and feel regardless of the tool set that you're going to use to achieve it. In terms of why do we have a SAP edition? Why are we so important when you have on your stack SAP? We mentioned that we are not integrated. We are running within SAP. And we know by experience that SAP integrating with SAP can be cumbersome. Because fundamentally what you have SOAP, you have OData, and you have iDocs, XML-based documents. So what we have done is that looking specifically for OData, we can offer you today the ability for you to integrate with SAP at a rate that nobody else can. And that means that if you compare a payload, a test payload of 25,000 entries, so you're getting 25,000 entries from a table, and you're doing it via OData, you can see that's the graphic here on top. If you're doing a JAX, we can now make it 7 times faster. If you're using REST powered by Neptune, that's 19 times faster. But now we have a new type of REST, which is based on XSLT. We can make it, in certain cases, available 29 times faster than what OData can. And that's quite unique to Neptune. There is no other vendor in any market that can do this.
It's because we are sitting so close to the core of SAP. We need to take a little bit of step back to see how SAP standard is doing it, because they're using this OData service layer where they are converting data from SAP tables are very fast accessible. It's a very fast database and the core structure. So accessing data from within the SAP is very fast, but converting the data to this OData XML based, sending it to the front end and then converting it back to JSON or converting it back to your front end structures takes a long time. So from the very beginning, SAP focused on going totally straight to the core and use the class-based approach and getting the data straight out of structures and tables. And from the beginning, we used the normal AJAX conversion and sent that to the front end. But then in this edition, we have added this XSLT transformation that will that is like it's a conversion that is a transformation that's generated based on the actual data structures that you are converting into JSON. And that's so fast because it knows exactly how to convert each and every data type. There's one drawback that if you change the underlying structure of the data types, then you need to regenerate this transformation. That's why it's not full-fledged available. It's still in like an experimental state. You have to enable it on each service. But if you do so, you will see that your payload will be significantly decreased. The amount of data is still the same, but the transportation of the data from the front end back into the front end will be
super fast.
Blown away. It's amazing.
And then I'm guessing everyone that's looking at the screen is saying, hey, but those performance results do not reflect that. Yes, because we haven't activated. For those requests, we haven't really activated the full ability. So you can take it by steps. You can have it by service, and you can activate at this point by service if you want this compression and the XSLT transformation. And we do this across applications. We do it across REST APIs for integration in a very simple way. So now let's activate this to maximum power and let's run this again. So if I go here into our cockpit and I can go now into the API level and I will be able to edit this API endpoint, and I'm going to say that I'm going to enable this.
Wait a minute. Just to explain this screen, what's going on is that by clicking this one button and by enabling this DM transformation, you will then activate a service in the backend that will convert, that will create this pretty huge ABAP-based transformation, all done for you in the backend. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to code the transformation yourself. And those of you who've done that know that that's not so easy to code that. So this is just generated totally out of the box for you. You just have to enable it.
Absolutely, and that's what I just did for the application. Just small bug, hiccup. Let's go here into the application, lock. Expand, and now I'm going to activate this new service on the data model level. Now let's refresh this and rerun the test. So now what it's doing now, it's getting the OData, 25,000 entries with OData. So we're not accelerating OData, we can accelerate all other parts. So OData is being accelerated. Now, REST API, and you can see across the board, you get 7 times faster out of the box. Your apps will run 7 times faster with Neptune, and that's performance. I'm not talking about development. I'm talking about how they run. So at least they will run 7 times, in this case, 6.5 6.5 times faster.
Yeah.
But if you build your apps on top of APIs from Neptune, you can get almost 30 times faster than what you can do with ONADA. And this is a real test. I can just deactivate by service, I'll activate by service, and the payload, as you can see, is the same. So 3.5 times lighter than what OData can provide, but the speed that you can get it is
amazing. Yeah.
It's unique. So regardless of how you use this for, if you use it for integration or use it for application development, we can accelerate the performance of your applications dramatically.
And even though there should be a change in the data structure so that you need to regenerate this transformation, we have a fallback solution so that if we encountered an error, we will just go back to the old way of doing it so that you will still get the data no matter what.
It just won't be as fast.
Yeah. So then you will get actually also a notification that something went wrong, that you need to regenerate this. But we're working on maybe having an automatic regeneration, a job running in the ABAP stack, so that this will be regenerated when we encounter those errors. So that it will just be a small amount of time where you will have the slower 7 times performance boost and not the 29 fast.
But it's not just about how fast can you do 25,000 records, it's how sustainable can you do it when you go to enterprise. So we did a completely different test. So the test we've done is using this technology. We are able to run the test that had the following parameters. We're using 5 to 300 concurrent virtual users. We used for this a K6 performance toolset to test this. We're fetching a payload of 50 records. This time we're not doing big payloads, a small payload, but this results will be even better with big payloads. And we're doing a 30 seconds test. In terms of how we're connecting to SAP, in this case, we are using a VPN and we're using basic authentication on the header. Our CPU, our ACP server details are in there, so you can see that this is a very lightweight server.
Of course,
but
you should scale your SAP system depending on how much you're expecting
of course, this is not a productive environment. And we even put it here, the findings, and you can find the percentage of increased performance from Neptune, and you can see from the moment that you go over 100 virtual users, that you get a dramatic increase in performance.
Something huge.
So you guys can just pause this when you access this webinar in the recording, so you can get the statistics. But if you just put it in a graphic, so what you can see is that on our test server, from 90 concurrent users and above, the performance of all data deprecates to the point where at 150 it's non-admissible test because it just doesn't return anything. And you look at what Neptune can do. Neptune can do not only faster, but it's sustainable for high volume enterprise. And we know whoever is using SAP is using it with a lot of users for a lot of interactions. So we can sustain this applicational layer for how many users you want, for integration, for application development. We can not only accelerate your application development, we can dramatically change the user experience of your end users. There is no more spinning, there is no more waiting.
Yeah, so and the way the data is laid out there is, if you look at around 9A, so that's very common that it's called like cache thrashing, because when SAP is trying to build that OData structure, it's starting to go from one to another to another, and it never finishes anything, and then that starts to happen. So it's a really great optimization.
And in the Neptune case, it will reach this limit as well, but it will keep on running and just having you wait in line until you get access to the thread or to the server.
Yeah.
So in terms of what kind of system does this run? So the high performance REST API XSLT base, you need to have NetWeaver Stack 7.5 in order to get that. But you can still accelerate substantially your applications and your REST APIs by compressing the data, and that's available across the stack.
But it's the part of the Neptune philosophy, because you can install Neptune on pretty much any SAP system that you have out there, going back 10, 15 years to the 702 thing. Neptune Stack is the earliest part. That's really old system, but you can still leverage the advantages that you get in newer systems, and we will increase that advantage in the future. That so this XSLT transformation is the first one we are leveraging this way, that you can enable it if you have it. If it's available, then it will be available here. And that reflects it in the cockpit. If it's not available, the tile will not be available.
Yeah, absolutely. And also this is important to say that the SAP edition module of the Neptune DX platform, certified by SAP for NetWeaver Stack, NetWeaver 701 is for HANA, and the Open Edition is certified for SAP Business Technology Platform, so also formerly known as SAP Cloud Platform. So
you almost sound like this is a SAP-centric company.
But
not at all.
It is
not at all.
Kind of funny, because it's not too long ago that we actually added support for HANA to the Open Edition. So the Open Edition can actually run on a HANA database.
That's a great example of how we see the product of Neptune DXP, that we have these two editions that running on two totally different backends, but we see that you in the future maybe will create your front end in the P9 world, or in the Open Edition, formerly known as P9.
Yeah.
And then you can access all the services in the world, including those services in your old SAP system, through the REST API with those XLST transformation, lightning fast access to all your business data. So that's one scenario we see where we really can leverage the power of the Neptune DXP, the two editions, where you have the Open Edition running on any platform on lightweight Node.js server, and it's lightning fast how you access data and access everything through the REST APIs.
And there was a question here about dark mode.
Dark mode.
There you go. Of course, this is a development platform. Of course, we do dark mode. And here we have dark modes. But before, I guess everyone that is the developer there is already trying to get your hands on this. It's available for you to download right now. Just go to our Neptune accounts portal, and you are able, as a developer, as a partner, as a customer, download this right now and try it for yourself on your environments. So if you want to use OData with different type of protocol or different type of output, not XML, JSON, etc., you run your own tests.
Just to be sure, what we are releasing today is an innovation release, and we have a new blog post that will explain how we have the new versioning system and how we are aligning all the versioning numbers across the modules, so that what we're releasing today is the Neptune DXP 2106 innovation release. And getting ready for the Neptune DXP 21 in Q3, where we will have the long-term support maintenance for both.
Exactly. And one of the good things that comes out with aligning the release schedules of both modules is that it's so much easier to sort of talk about how can we integrate this even better for the next one, which for sure we'll have many discussions about.
So if you have the same edition, it's the same versioning installed from both editions, you will know you'll get approximately the same user experience for both your developers and your front-end users. We haven't seen much about what we actually can produce from this platform, because now we are talking about the developer experience.
Exactly. So let's go back to that. So one of the key things here is that you are able to create personalization. You're able to personalize your own cockpit as a developer. So different areas here to take into consideration. So you have now on top a universal search. That is new. You have ability to on the top right hand side to personalize your developer experience. What kind of theme do you want? How do you want the cockpit to show your favorites? How do you want the cockpit to place the actions on each one of the tools? Then on the top left hand side, you have all your open services. And at the bottom, you can also have your favorite services.
That's changed a little bit from previous releases, because now, even though before a service needed to be in edit mode before you could access it again, but now it will always be available on the left-hand side, even though it's not in the edit mode.
So another thing that is important is that you can now use a lot of shortcuts. So as I did, as you can see here on the very top, it says Alt S for Windows and for Mac Option S. And basically you have what you want. But when you search, it will search not only on your tools, and I'm in a perspective that I have the DevOps perspective. Let's put the all services perspective, because then when I look here API, I'll have it. But then I can navigate using my cursors, using my keys and the keyboard. And on the right-hand side, I have also my favorites. So if I say, okay, I'm working a lot with the API factory, as you should. Now immediately I have the API factory here on the right-hand side.
Try to expand the bar there. You can still see.
You can see your favorites. You can see your open tools, your open services. And by expanding here again, I have automatically here my available services.
And they can be sorted by dragging and dropping.
So. And of course, you can change as you wish. You can even change the color of the header.
That's something we use in the SAP world because we have a lot of different systems. So it's nice to
easily see.
Yeah, so a production system would typically be red. If you do something
in any
here.
environment, you need to know, especially when you're working on the browser, you need to know exactly on which environment are you in, right?
And that color will work both in bright and dark mode. So just set a hue, and then we'll just follow along.
Another thing is that, of course, you can easily go from light to dark modes on the fly. Okay.
We even deliver a new theme actually created in the SAP Theme Designer. So now you can actually use the Neptune Quartz theme for the light mode.
Yeah.
So that's we just customized it a little bit to make the blues a little bit more Neptune-ish, a little bit more slowed down than the bright blue you see from the normal Quartz design theme.
Also, on the universal search, you have, as I showed, all the services on the left-hand side. You have your list-based favorite services, and you have direct access to artifacts, so that when you are in here and you can just click, for example, on this tile.
Sometimes in the future, you can do that.
And it will automatically open the right tool with the right artifact.
In the open edition, you're a lot further ahead of the searching the artifacts. It's just it's not really ready yet for the PA for the
yes,
SAP
this is innovation. So also quick actions. So here on the actual tiles, for example, here under the tile tool, you have your 5 last used artifacts, and you can even know when were you using
basically the same that you see at the top of the screen.
Exactly, and the same thing is also visible within the favorites. So you have exactly the same services within.
And we're going to add more quick actions as we come along and figure out, because if you go to the app designer, Hilton, you see that's another, you need to go to the tile, to the front page, and then you go find the app designer.
We're running out of time. I think we have to.
Yeah, okay.
What do you want, the app designer?
No, I just kind of carrying ahead, talking about all the new stuff we've added.
Yes, absolutely. And here on the app designer,
that's 2 quick actions that's
exactly
for you.
Exactly. So each tool will have their own specifically quick actions, and all of them are available basically everywhere.
For things that make sense. Yeah.
For things that make sense, obviously. Also, a cool thing, and actually, I particularly like this one a lot. And this was something that was one of our go-to-market specialists that came up with this idea, and it was a perfect idea. So if you do Shift up and down, you can just with the keyboard go from your open
to edit mode in one of those services. If you go to edit mode, then the tile to the left will be marked as now you're in edit mode, and you will always see where you have something that's not really saved yet or in a dirty mode. So
you can see all the open services, and then you can see which ones are you actually changing an artifact. So easily visualized, easily accessible, and also another aspect is this exactly that I was saying, the open services and that on the right hand side. So we'll have dedicated release videos as well on the 2106 release of the Neptune DX platform. We will now look at the questions that we have here on the forum, and let's see if we can address some. So if you want to ask us some questions, please do. So does it require any SAP authorization in order to access SAP data? I think that's a big yes.
Yes.
That's a big yes. So there is no Neptune users, there are SAP users. So regardless of you being accessing via an API on the Open Edition or you accessing within the SAP Edition, you need to have the right SAP authorizations and roles in order to access it.
Yeah.
You can have and add specific profiles to the actual API endpoint so that the incoming user, regardless of being an internal SAP user or being accessing it through an integration, that can then use a SAP principal propagation to authenticate. You are able to reuse 100% of what you have.
In the Open Edition, it's all role-based, and the users are stored and created within the Open Edition.
Yes. So you either use, let's say, Azure AD. Lots of customers use that, LDAP, whatever. And then we simply sync the users with that authentication place. So passwords wouldn't be stored at our system then, for instance. But you're also able to create your own local users if you want to. Not everyone uses IDPs. About that question, if we have a release date for the Open Edition with this new experience. Yes, that one. Yeah, so we're aiming for the innovation release, like Morten mentioned, which is released yesterday. This will be something that's for all of you to get your hands dirty with, and we will continue working on it and improving it. We hope that many of you will try it and give us feedback, because it will actually shape how this will end up come Q3, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And also it's available with this developer experience with cosmetic differences, but fundamentally all of this functionality, the shortcuts, the developer experience is completely aligned between the two modules. So the Neptune, this is the Neptune DX developer experience. Regardless of which module you'll be using, we are giving you exactly the same developer experience.
Exactly.
Some cosmetic differences for now.
And some services, of course.
Some services, because some services are different from the different stacks. But that's
part of the reason we have two modules, right?
That's it. So there is a question here: can we use Neptune as a type of a middleware? Absolutely, yes. We have several customers that use Neptune for not only application development, for integration. We have top of my mind, we have users that we have some use cases where the customer is using Neptune for integration, and this is both scalable vertically and horizontally, because the Open Edition can run embedded into a Docker container orchestrated with Kubernetes or Cloud Foundry, hosted on any kind of hyperscaler, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, SAP Business Technology Platform. You can scale it, anything.
I think that's one of the biggest use cases for the DX platform, actually.
Yeah.
That you can actually just, because everything is RESTified, all your services and all your data can be accessed just through REST API. You just don't need the front end if you have another front end you want to use.
For example, in the case of this question, the full question is to facilitate data transfer between SAP and the web shop, for example. Absolutely. We have customers, as I said, that using this for a web shop on retail scenario where they have over 4 million queries a day. And we have even another customer that's using Neptune for integration across all of the systems, not only SAP, with 15 million queries a day. And that shows that this is capable of scaling. There is no bottleneck here. Any more questions, anyone? We'll be also answering these questions on the community. I would like to apologize for the beginning. We had some technical difficulties with the camera and with the PowerPoint. So we did and the host as well. So we did some podcast kind of move there with just audio. But I hope that this was a very informative session for everyone.
Podcasts are the new rage, right?
Absolutely. But now podcasts have video. But anyway, so. Thank you for attending, everyone. Look forward to see you downloading our 2 releases of the 2 modules 21.06, the new Neptune DX platform.
See you in the forum and in the community.
See you there. Thank you so much for today.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
What happened in the beginning? Just forgot the button? Or?
I guess.